Why do some teams pull together in the face of challenge while others fall apart under pressure? Why do some leaders inspire loyalty while others struggle to earn respect? It all comes down to one thing. Trust? Trust isn't built with job titles or authority. It's built in the small moments, when a leader listens, when they stand up for their people, when they choose to do what's right even when it's not easy. You see, leadership isn't about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. And that care, that responsibility, starts with trust. Today, I want to talk about why trust is the foundation of leadership. Because without it, we don't lead, we just manage. And people don't want to be managed. They want to be led. Trust is earned through consistency and integrity, not authority. Authority. This statement lies at the heart of what it truly means to lead. In a world where titles are often mistaken for leadership, we have to pause and reflect on what actually makes someone worth following. It's not the power they hold, the position they occupy, or the commands they give. Leadership isn't a rank, it's a responsibility. And trust, the cornerstone of that responsibility, cannot be demanded. It must be earned. When we talk about trust, we're really talking about a deep belief in someone's character and intentions. People trust leaders not because they have to, but because they choose to. That choice is based on how the leader shows up day after day, especially when no one is watching. A leader earns trust not by being perfect, but by being consistent, consistently honest, consistently fair, consistently human. That consistency builds a pattern of reliability, and with reliability comes trust. Think of it like this. If a leader tells their team they support them, but then fails to stand by them during tough times, that contradiction breaks trust. But if a leader says, "I've got your back," and proves it through actions, through presence, through empathy, that's when trust is forged. It's not the grand gestures that matter most. It's the small, repeated actions that align with their values. Integrity isn't a one-time display. It's a long-term commitment. We often admire leaders who show strength and confidence, but those qualities mean little if they are not rooted in integrity. Integrity means doing the right thing, even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs something. It means aligning your words with your actions, your values with your decisions. When a leader has integrity, people can predict how they will act, not because they're rigid, but because they're grounded. That predictability fosters a sense of safety, and that safety allows trust to grow. Imagine working for someone who changes direction based on their mood, who says one thing but does another, who hides behind their title when things go wrong. Now imagine working for someone who owns their mistakes, who gives credit where it's due, and who remains steady in their principles regardless of pressure. The difference between the two isn't skill or intelligence, it's consistency and integrity. One leaves people feeling uncertain and guarded. The other creates loyalty and confidence. Trust doesn't come with a job description. It comes from how you live the role. It's earned when people see that your intentions are genuine. It's reinforced when they realize they can rely on you not just for decisions, but for fairness, understanding, and direction. A leader with integrity doesn't avoid hard truths. They face them and invite others to do the same. That honesty, even when uncomfortable, builds trust faster than empty reassurance. Some leaders believe that authority alone gives them the right to demand loyalty. But loyalty is not a demand, it is a gift. And people don't give that gift to someone just because they have a corner office or a fancy title. They give it to someone who sees them, respects them, and treats them with dignity. Authority might get obedience, but only trust gets commitment. And without commitment, a leader is just a figurehead, not a guide. Consistency is what turns a leader's values into a culture. When a leader consistently acts with transparency, it encourages others to do the same. When a leader consistently listens, it empowers people to speak. When a leader consistently shows up with humility, it invites connection. Over time, those repeated behaviors shape how people feel, and how they feel determines how much they trust. This is why trust can't be rushed. It builds slowly, moment by moment, through interactions that feel real and unforced. It's in the leader who remembers your name, who notices when something's off, who doesn't just check the boxes but actually cares. Those moments create a sense of being seen, and that sense becomes the bedrock of trust. Authority can open the door, but it's the leader's consistency and integrity that invite people to stay. Leaders who trust and are trustworthy create safe environments for growth. At the core of every successful team, organization, or movement lies an unshakable sense of safety, a feeling that people are valued, respected, and empowered to bring their full selves to the table. This sense of safety does not appear by accident. It is created intentionally by leaders who understand that trust is not just something they must earn from others. It is something they must also extend. When a leader chooses to trust their people, they are making a powerful statement. I believe in you. That belief acts as a catalyst for growth. It tells team members that they are not only capable, but that they are supported. When people feel trusted, they become more willing to take initiative, share ideas, and push past their comfort zones. They don't fear failure as much, because they know that mistakes will not be met with judgment, but with curiosity and a desire to learn. This doesn't mean trust is blind or naive. Trust is intelligent. It is given with clarity and built on mutual understanding. A trustworthy leader sets clear expectations and communicates with openness. They don't micromanage because they trust their team's abilities, and they don't withhold information because they trust their team's maturity. In doing so, they create an environment where collaboration thrives, creativity flourishes, and people feel ownership over their work. But trust is a two-way street. Leaders cannot expect others to give their best if they themselves are not trustworthy. Being trustworthy means being dependable, honest, and transparent. It means showing up consistently, following through on promises, and being accountable even when things go wrong. When a leader behaves in a trustworthy manner, they create a mirror for their team to reflect that same behavior. They model what it means to act with integrity and to care deeply about the collective well-being. In these environments, people are not afraid to speak up. They're not afraid to say, "I don't know," or "I made a mistake," because they know those words will be met with support rather than scorn. That level of psychological safety is one of the most powerful indicators of a healthy team. It allows for honest conversations, bold experiments, and continuous learning. People feel free to challenge the status quo and bring new ideas forward because they are not navigating a culture of fear. They are part of a culture of trust. Tuft. Leaders who trust their people aren't focused on control. They're focused on empowerment. They don't hoard decision-making power. They share it. They don't view questions or challenges as threats. They welcome them. This creates a sense of shared purpose, where everyone feels invested in the outcome, not just because it's their job, but because they feel responsible. Responsibility born out of trust is more powerful than obligation born out of hierarchy. Growth in these environments becomes exponential. People stretch their capabilities, take calculated risks, and work collaboratively because they know they are not alone. They know their leader is with them, not above them. And because of this, they grow, not just in skills, but in confidence, in resilience, and in connection. They develop not only as professionals, but as human beings. Trust also gives people the freedom to be authentic. In a safe environment, people don't have to wear masks or pretend to be someone they're not. They can bring their values, their personalities, their vulnerabilities into their work. This authenticity fuels deeper relationships, stronger communication, and a richer sense of belonging. And belonging is not just a feel-good word, it's essential. When people feel like they belong, they give more, care more, and stay longer. In teams led by trusting and trustworthy leaders, the culture becomes self-reinforcing. New members quickly pick up on the values being lived out daily. They see the openness, the fairness, the support, and they align themselves with it. This kind of culture doesn't require constant policing or strict rules to function. It runs on shared principles, mutual respect, and trust. The energy that might otherwise be spent navigating politics or fear is instead channeled into innovation, excellence, and growth. The real magic of leadership happens when people feel seen, heard, and believed in. It happens when leaders show their teams not only what is possible, but also that they are capable of achieving it. By creating a foundation of trust, by choosing to believe in people and proving themselves to be dependable, leaders open the door to growth that is sustainable, meaningful, and transformative. Without trust, leadership becomes control, not inspiration. At the heart of every meaningful relationship, whether personal, professional, or communal, is trust. And nowhere is this more critical than in leadership. When trust is absent, what remains is a hollow form of authority that relies on rules, fear, and pressure. Leadership at its most authentic level is not about pushing people to perform. It's about pulling people toward a vision, a cause, or a purpose. That pull only happens when trust exists between a leader and those they lead. Trust allows people to follow not because they have to, but because they want to. It's what turns compliance into commitment and routine tasks into meaningful contributions. But when trust is missing, leadership becomes a transactional exchange. It turns into "as because I said so," rather than a "let's do this together because we believe in it." The difference between the two is profound. One creates a workforce that does the minimum required. The other builds a team that is inspired to go beyond what's expected. Leaders who lack trust resort to control. They become overly involved in decisions, second-guess their team, micromanage tasks, and build layers of approval that stifle creativity. Control might produce short-term results, but it suffocates long-term growth. It leaves people feeling undervalued, unmotivated, and unseen. People may follow instructions, but their hearts aren't in it. They're not aligned, they're just complying. In contrast, when trust is present, leadership becomes influence. It becomes the ability to move people emotionally and intellectually toward a shared goal. People follow not because they're forced to, but because they feel inspired. Inspiration requires connection. And connection cannot exist without trust. It's the glue that holds teams together when things get tough, when change feels uncertain, or when the path forward isn't perfectly clear. Leadership without trust often leads to fear-based environments. People are afraid to speak up, afraid to make mistakes, afraid to show vulnerability. In these spaces, innovation dies, initiative fades, collaboration weakens. Everyone plays it safe because the consequences of failure are too high. When control is the dominant force, people focus more on avoiding blame than on achieving excellence. They retreat rather than engage. But trust changes everything. It opens up space for experimentation and honesty. It gives people the confidence to raise their hands and say, "I have an idea," or "I need help," or even "I was wrong." These are not signs of weakness. They're signs of a healthy, dynamic team that's willing to grow. A leader who fosters this kind of openness doesn't lose control. They gain influence. People feel seen and supported, and in turn, they give more of themselves to the mission at hand. It's important to understand that trust doesn't mean a lack of structure or discipline. Structure. In fact, trust thrives within clear expectations and consistent values. But those expectations are not enforced through fear. They are upheld through mutual respect. A trustworthy leader sets the tone. They create alignment through vision and values, not through pressure or punishment. They build trust not by demanding loyalty, but by earning it through action, humility, and care. Control might get results, but trust gets transformation. When people are trusted, they take ownership. They don't wait to be told what to do. They anticipate needs, solve problems, and support one another. They take pride in their contributions because they know they matter. That sense of purpose is what fuels true performance. It's not the threat of consequences that drives excellence. It's the belief in a shared journey guided by a leader who trusts and is trusted. We've all seen organizations where control is king. Meetings are tense, decisions are top-down, and people feel replaceable. The energy in these places is heavy. Now contrast that with a space where trust is alive, where leaders listen as much as they speak, where team members are empowered to lead from wherever they stand, where mistakes are treated as lessons, not liabilities. That kind of environment isn't just more productive, it's more human. A leader's legacy is not written in profits or performance metrics alone. It's written in the trust they build, the lives they impact, and the culture they leave behind. People may forget what a leader said or did on any given day, but they will always remember how that leader made them feel. And nothing makes people feel more valued, more motivated, or more inspired than being trusted. Trust breathes life into leadership. Without it, what's left is control, cold, rigid, and ultimately unsustainable.